All right, I want to play one little clip for you related to both Joe Biden and the controversy around him since the debate and Donald Trump's VP pick. This was actually an interesting moment. I'm not going to torture you by subjecting you to long swaths of Brian Kilmeade's recent interview with Donald Trump, but there was an interesting moment where the idea, what about waiting to see what happens with Biden and running or not before deciding on your VP pick? Or put a different way, is there some way in which Biden staying in the race versus Biden stepping down would affect who Trump selects for his VP? There's a lot of interesting stuff here. Let's listen.
I'm wondering if it factors in that Joe Biden might not be the nominee. And if does that factor in who you pick? Because a lot of people think it's got to be Kamala to be number one. She goes and picks a battleground state governor like Shapiro or Whitmer. Does that change your thinking? Maybe you need Virginia and you might want to go get a Youngkin.
I don't think it does. I'm asked that question a lot. Am I waiting for that, for the axe to fall? And frankly, I'm amazed that I hope he can carry it on. I just assume we planned for him, but whether we plan for him or anyone else, the planning, I think, is the same. It's a policy that the Democrats have: open borders, high taxes, high interest rates, being weak on foreign. I mean, look at how bad they're laughed at by everybody. This guy is walking around being laughed at by the leaders. I know all these leaders. He's being laughed at by the leaders of foreign countries.
Now, of course, remember, Trump was literally laughed at by the leaders of foreign countries when he gave that UN speech. Biden has actually, fortunately, repaired a lot of those alliances. But there's two really, really interesting things here. Number one, Trump seems to acknowledge that he is actually set up to run against Joe Biden specifically. And so there's a little bit of an interesting aspect there where Trump seems to recognize that swapping Biden for someone else would actually be destabilizing to his campaign as well. And he's probably seen polling where almost no matter who Democrats run, if there were to be a change, assuming it's a relatively well-known Democrat, does just as well against Trump as an immediate starting point, and potentially could even build up to do even better by the time the election actually happens. But then number two, and he actually admits it earlier in the clip, is something I agree with. I don't really think it matters what happens with Biden in terms of who Donald Trump selects. And to be honest, even this individual state strategy, there used to be, how there's these conventional wisdoms in politics, and often they don't end up being that conventional where, if you are, sometimes it would be said, if you're running as a Democrat for president and you're a senator, what you want to do is pick a Southern governor to be your running mate, because then it appeals to a certain part of the country. I think that stuff is mostly irrelevant now. I'm not saying it always was irrelevant. I'm saying it's mostly irrelevant now, particularly since 99.9% of voters are getting all of their information in ways that don't really depend on the geographical origins or placement of candidates, and the idea that, listen, this is a turnout election at the end of the day. This is a referendum on Biden and a referendum on 4 more years of Trump. I don't see any way in which Trump selecting Youngkin if it's Kamala, but selecting Rubio if it's Biden, I don't think it makes any difference. And Trump seems to be acknowledging that. So it is a particularly interesting revelation that that's not a calculation. One last thing I think it's important to remind people of. It's very obvious that Trump has been lying about the entire VP process for close to a year now, because you might recall that close to a year ago, he said during a town hall, I've already selected the VP. I already know who it's going to be. And then later said, I'm considering this and I'm considering that. Oh, but you had already said you had selected. I guess you hadn't. And then later said another contradicting thing. And then later said another contradicting thing. So almost certainly Trump has been lying about the VP issue all along. But where I agree with Trump is I don't think it matters one way or the other.